What's up, guys? This is Jakob. I'm Content AI Manager and founder of Content AI Tools. Welcome to a new episode of, normally I would say, Content AI Tools or Web3 live show, but today we have a special episode. It feels a little bit like interviewing the Avengers team. So I have very special guests that I both interviewed in my show and who connected each other and have to some degree similar niches, and we said, why don't we make a live session together? So welcome Melich Österlei, he's CEO of Smart Finance Marketing, and Brian Piper, who's creator of the Piper Coin, and also the author, together with Joe Polizzi, of Epic Content Marketing, so the second edition. Very excited to speak with you both, and this is also very exciting for me because it's my first double interview that I ever made so far. So welcome to this new format.
It's good to be on the show again.
Absolutely, yes. Always great to be setting new standards, breaking boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's our job. We have to set new territory, territory, trying out new things, and testing all the time. Awesome. So you both are to some degree in similar niches. Maybe can you each introduce yourself in a nutshell? So who are you, and what is the main reason that we're here speaking together? So the topic that we want to speak about. Maybe Melich, maybe you can start because you're on my right side.
All right. So I'm the CEO of Smart Finance Marketing. We're a marketing agency out of the Detroit metro area. We've been in business for 35 years. We've been, we have a creative team, a tech team, a marketing team. We have our own writers. Everybody's in the United States. And it's been a very long ride in digital marketing over all this time frame.
Yes.
So you can imagine anything digital, anything marketing, anything branding. We've been at it. We've done it. We do it. It continues to this day, just in a different form, especially when things change so quickly.
Yeah. And now it's Brian's turn, like this.
So I'm the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester in Rochester, New York. I've been optimizing websites and web content since 1996. And in 2014, I really started diving into content marketing specifically, and have been focusing on that. I do a lot of consulting with other institutions and healthcare institutions, defense contracting companies on content optimization and making sure that your content is doing everything it should be doing for you.
Yeah, that's already also the topic. But before we dive in this one, I just want to make sure. So I have a content format. I have it from a friend about the gratitude post. So I, at the end of the week, just also for myself, I'm tagging all people. I'm just thanking for all the interviews and meetings that I had at the end of the week. And you guys met because you were both in this post. So how because I also don't know. Maybe you contacted Brian, or what was the process?
Well, first of all, I've been following you, Jakob, on LinkedIn, as well as your interviews, and I was on your show as well. And I felt that everybody that you're interviewing and have on your show are of quality and interesting people to connect with. And so when you put those posts up on LinkedIn where you're thanking everybody, you have that weekly post or that whatever, I think it's a weekly post, where you kind of summarize your interviews and you're tagging everybody and so on and so forth. I say, it's a good idea just to kind of connect with these people. And so, yes, I went through and whoever's on that list that you tagged, I sent them an invite, and most everybody engages and says and accepts the invite. But with Brian, at least we got into a conversation. I said, hey, why don't we just chit chat? And so that's how it started. And Brian and I met separately as well, just to kind of find out about each other and kind of go over history of marketing in the digital world. So we had a good conversation there as well.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Never thought about that one, but that's the power of content, really.
That's the power of social media too. I mean, this is where you can connect people up, and you can, more importantly, you can get like-minded people, and even on a professional level, to share ideas, collaborate, come up with new ideas possibly too. Like we did today. Yes. We have a new idea. You have two people on your show.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so Brian already mentioned it a little bit. So optimizing websites, things like that. So I mean, this should be basic stuff for entrepreneurs, but oftentimes it is not. So can we just start? What major mistakes do you see when it comes to website building? When it comes to customer or clients that you work with, what are the major mistakes that people make when they start with the website? Maybe this time we can start with Brian first and then move on to Melich, so that everybody, like on a political talk show, so everybody has the same speaking time, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest mistake that I see when I go in and start helping people with their content, with their websites, is not connecting their web content to their business strategies. So not making sure that every piece of content they create has a strategy, has an audience that they're focusing on, has a call to action. I mean, time is our most limited resource, our most precious resource. It's something that we can't get back. So we have to be careful that we're not spending our time on content that doesn't deliver for us, the content that doesn't help us. And I see a lot of people, not looking at their analytics and their data. I'm a data person. So I tell people, if you want to figure out what's working and what's not working and where to spend your time, look at your analytics and you'll figure out from there. And then just make sure that all the content you're creating is relevant to your business and relevant to your bottom line. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. We can dive into the data point, but let us give Melich also the chance to answer that question.
I'm going to add a different. I'm going to continue with Brian said and just do an add-on. So part of the idea of your website is that, especially nowadays, we have so much data that's available to us. It's not just the data about the people coming to your website, but you also have enough data to understand how you're going to target your audience. How do you target them outside of your website and then drive them in? Once you've targeted that audience, when they get to your website has to match the target audience that you're trying to attract, or that you have attracted, but now you're trying to have them become a customer or a lead from your website. So the website has to have that persona, is kind of the term that the industry is using nowadays. It has to have the persona of your target audience. It has to be able to speak to them. And so part of what you're doing is not researching your target audience. Once you know who they are and the type of person it is that you're targeting, then make sure that your website speaks to that person. It has to get their attention. And so you need to be able to have a website that, kind of piggyback on what Brian said, the content has to match the visitor. And these are areas that, if I go back to your question, what's the mistake? I think mistake number one is this idea that, here, let's just get a website up. Mistake number two is, once it's up, nobody changes it.
Yeah, it takes so much time. I mean, I have to all the time. I have to go in and yeah. I mean, I got it. So especially when you're starting out, it's like more like a business card for many people. I think when you start, it's not like that you on a regular basis go into the back end, because you don't want to see the back end oftentimes, because it's just for many people horrifying. But I get the point. So you have to be the point of the strategy makes totally sense. But you both mentioned to some degree the data. So Google Analytics is one tool that you would recommend. But I mean, I'm posting on LinkedIn, and would you just check? So what is the traffic that comes from LinkedIn to my website, or what exactly? Where do you know? Okay, this content pieces, they succeeded and they achieved my business strategy. Do you know what I want to want to say or want to ask? Yeah.
You want to start, Brian? Since you took you started the data topic.
And yeah, and so it's important to look at, and that's the thing, you have limited time, but now we have to look at the data on all of our channels and figure out what data is most important to us. And I was just at Content Marketing World last week with 2,000 other content marketers. And one of the big conversations that was going on was, how do you figure out what data matters? What data is important? What should we be looking at? And of course, my answer is it depends. It depends on, what audience you're trying to convert. It depends on what action you're trying to get them to take. But you need to be able to measure from first contact, whether that's on a social channel or, in a podcast, and figure out how that tracks into a conversion on your website. And so that's a matter of having your analytics set up properly, and then being able to go back and look to figure out where that first touch point was, how the user flowed through your website, what content they consumed along the way. And it's a very intentional process when you actually break it down and look at it step by step. But most people don't do that. Most people are just putting up new content on their site and hoping it's working and spending a lot of time. We're talking about how much time it takes to go in and update your website. Well, if you're spending a lot of time on things that don't matter and don't deliver, then you're not being as efficient as you could be. So having that data and looking at that data, and when we work at a different institution, we go in to help somebody out with the website. First thing we do is figure out what their strategies are and make sure that we've got the right tactics set up on the website to deliver against those strategies, and then make sure that we're measuring that. And we measure that and we put it in a dashboard that's very easy for them to see the performance improving as we start changing things in their content. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use to run some audits on the site to see, what's performing on search. How is the website performing from a speed perspective? How is the website set up? What's the architecture like? Is it easy for a user to go through? And a lot of people that we work with don't have time to do that themselves because they're so busy putting out new content and getting out new content. I always say to them, are you sure that content's even working? I know you're putting in a lot of time. It's a lot of effort to create that, but if it's not working, then why are you spending your time on it? So,
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that analytics, analysis, interpretation, looking at multiple data points is not sexy. That's our problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just feels like a waste of time to so many people. They feel better. It's an emotional thing more than a logical thing. It's about, hey, I just did something and I can check it off my list. But if you took all these check marks and all the work they did to check things off on their list, the amount of time that they just spent doing that is, and I think this is what Brian's also saying, is about the same as had they gone through the analytics and refined what they're doing with what they have, it would be more effective. And so, yes, you look at Google Analytics, you look at Google Search Console, which at least helps you to some degree with how people, how do people get to your website from the search engines. You look at third-party tools like GT Metrics to make sure technically everything's fast, and it's optimized in a way that the user is not going to be impeded. You're looking at different data points, and you have to understand what you're going to do with it. What's your bounce rate look like? Are people coming in and leaving? Do you have the right quality traffic coming to your website? And you can learn that through Search Console based on the keywords that they're clicking on. You have to look at these things and maybe even use like an A/B testing tool. So you take your homepage, and I'm just using a simple example, and you create two versions of it. And the A/B testing tool will direct people to A or B version equally. You take a look at the results of that too. So now you have a fourth report, a fourth data point, so to speak, that you're looking at. And you look at the B version and see whether or not it's performing better than the A version. Very simple, is your bounce rate going down, for example? Did you get that person to a second page? But your B version would have to be dramatically different. You can't just make a few simple changes, but make it dramatic and see if it actually has an impact. Sometimes something shorter is better than something longer. So, like Brian was saying earlier, people don't have, time is precious. So get them to where they want to go as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And one of the things we tell our content creators all the time, if you're going to spend, 3-4 hours working on a blog post, crafting this article, and then you put it out in the world and, 200 people see it, isn't it worth taking 15 extra minutes, doing some keyword research, figuring out what questions your users are really asking and what information they want to know? And then that way, when you put it out, 10,000, 20,000 people are going to see it. So it makes a huge difference just doing a little bit of data research.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
To one thing that Melich mentioned in the beginning about Google Analytics and is not sexy. I'm looking on these graphs and sometimes it's growing and sometimes it's decreasing, but I'm like, it's not a habit oftentimes. So it's not like that I'm on a weekly basis, I'm looking in these things. It's more like I have posted something new. Maybe I want to look it up and see, does it affect my website, something like that. What I want to say is, oftentimes it's not a habit that we look on these data points. And I think this is something that me as a creator should have more focus on, that I make more research and also look into my own data points. That would make sense. So I'm just thinking loudly and
I think
what I should change.
I think weekly for a lot of people is too much. I don't know that they don't have the time for that, but I think weekly is too much. I think once a month would be sufficient. And something that I've told other people in the past too is, you look at Google Analytics, for example, or Search Console, or any of these other reports and data activities that you're looking at or you're tracking, and the information is overwhelming. It's not about looking at all the information. Find a small sliver and just work with that. Just find something to start with, and then you can build on it slowly. But a lot of times, these reports come in with too much information, and you're trying to figure out, well, what do I do with this? And at that point, some people get confused, throw their arms up in the air. It doesn't go anywhere. So find a starting point. Small starting point is better than none. It's better than waiting 6 months and then taking some time during the summer to say, hey, well, I wonder what happened.
Yeah, and I agree entirely with Meili. That's an excellent point. That weekly, we're in analytics and data every day, but like our content creators, I tell them once a week, go in and look at your dashboard. So especially with Google Analytics 4, it's a little bit more, everybody's going through the pains of upgrading, learning a new version of analytics. And when we work with a company or work with an institution or even with our own team, I tell them, don't worry about Google Analytics 4. We can use Google Data Studio and set up a very easy dashboard for our content creators. All I put on there is organic traffic, direct traffic, and engagement time with that piece of content. So are users scrolling down? Are they reading the whole piece of content? Are they spending a lot of time engaging with it? Because if you're looking at that every month, then you can find those high points. You can say, oh, there's a lot of traffic going to this one particular page. Something is happening. Something is working on that page. Let's go back and figure out what it is. And then we'll optimize that page and drive even more traffic. The great thing about SEO is it's a cycle. Once you start getting some traffic, you can optimize it. You drive more traffic, your rankings improve, you drive more, it's a nice cycle that gets going. And you can dramatically improve the amount of organic traffic and leads that are coming in through your content.
Absolutely. And it's more importantly, it's free.
Exactly.
When I say free, it's not paid advertising where you have to have a separate budget. Rather, instead of having paid advertising, you can focus on this. This is more labor time. It's internal labor time, and it has exponential results over time. From the day that you start, let's say day one, 6 months later, if you're keeping up on what needs to be done, this has a immense change in your traffic from Google, and more importantly, and then the second part of this is what we call conversion rate optimization. So you're trying to figure out, how do I take these visitors and convert them? And it is a cycle. It's a never-ending cycle. That's something my fellow baby boomers don't like to hear. They're looking for those 90 days. They're looking for those 90-day campaigns where they can start and stop.
Yes, that's also what I got all the time, especially in the software business. So Jakob, how do I get a return on investment within the next 30 days? Well, my friend, content doesn't work that way. Okay, no, I mean, it's a long-term goal. Sometimes I really struggle to explain this because these folks are so left-brain folks that they say, okay, where are the metrics? What can you show me? How many leads can I generate from this one blog article or from this one campaign? Well, that's hard to explain, my friend. You can't just say 1,000 leads or something. But maybe we stick to this SEO point. So SEO, search engine optimization. So for example, for me, it's very easy to generate backlinks. Is this a topic for you guys? So generating backlinks from media and to websites of clients, is this a huge thing? Because in SEO, search engine optimization, I hear all different kind of things. So some say blog articles, create 800-word blog articles. Some say you need backlinks. And things like that. What are the myths within SEO? What are the myths? Please tell us.
You need them all. That's the short answer. Honestly, there's no silver bullet in any of it. You're going to create content that's on your blog. You're going to create content through other websites that will generate a backlink to you, and properly done, it will be a keyword that's linking back to a specific page within your website. And you're going to do social media marketing because that attracts its own level of activities too. The other day it was just yesterday on Search Engine Journal, another co-author over there posted something about press releases, and are press releases relevant? And he did a great job in the article, specifically going through explaining that press releases are relevant, and because you're distributing content about you through the news networks, you're generating a lot of backlinks to your website as well, or to your web pages. And so you're going to be using what I call multi-channel marketing. I don't know that there's one thing to do and expect that to be the only thing that's going to make it work.
Yeah, the only, key thing that I tell all of our content creators, everybody that we work with, just make good content. Make content that matters to your users. That's where you have to start, because no one's going to read it. The search engines are going to find it. They're going to read it because they read everything. But if you can't get your users, if you can't get eyeballs on the page, so write good content, and you can do some research, do some keyword research to figure out what questions people are asking about that content. And if you can get that in there, then that's kind of a gateway into starting to drive that organic traffic. But yeah, like, Meili said, you have to do everything. You don't have to do it all well, but you should look at every piece of it, because everything works together. It's all one big package.
It is. Like, for example, on the keywords that you were just mentioning, Brian, one thing that we've used a lot is Google Trends. And I like Google Trends to the extent that let's say we have a client they say, hey, we want to be ranked for whatever, XYZ. And so you go to Google Trends and you show them that XYZ has this type of traffic over, let's say, the last 5 or 10 years. And then, but at the same time, in Google Trends, there are recommendations. What else is related to this word or phrase? And what is actively growing faster now than previously. And so when you start mapping that out, and all of a sudden the client wanted something and the graph shows the level is here, but the recommendations are up here. Now you have a tool, you have facts that you can work off of to make a decision and say, okay, you know what, actually we need to go in this direction.
Yeah,
but SEO, yeah, I mean, search engine optimization is not about just doing a one-time activity on your website. Rather, if you look at search engine optimization as turned into a never-ending content marketing process that includes it's outside of your website and inside of your website. And I would say that since Hummingbird algorithm came to the market in August 2013, that's become even more true than before. As a matter of fact, I wrote an article back then saying that SEO was dead, and it is dead as a task. It's not dead as a process. It actually became more important as a process now.
Yeah, absolutely. And another great place to find ideas is just in Google. I mean, you go to Google and you see put in whatever topic you're interested in, and it'll tell you all the auto completes. It'll tell you these are all things that people are searching on. That's why they put them in there. All the people also ask questions. Those are questions that someone else is asking and searching on. So those are all opportunities to try to come up with new content ideas and create new content that specifically addresses what your user wants to know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I had one SEO expert. He is still in Australia, but I interviewed him, and he said basically we should kill SEO. And this is somebody who has a SEO agency because he said, forget all these technical stuff. Just focus, like Brian said, focus on your clients, on your customer, and create content for this person or that person that you're very specific and solve problems. Then you don't have to figure out too much about SEO. Just let us do the technical parts that are decreasing, but that's the important thing that you do. So the basics of marketing are still true, that you have to focus on your target audience and solve problems and help them. That's what he said. Yeah.
And this is right back in your wheelhouse, Jakob, because RankBrain is Google's AI, and that is what we're using to help influence the rankings. And it is slowly becoming a larger and larger piece of, the algorithm to figure out how to rank things. And eventually it's going to get to the point where RankBrain is going to be doing all of the ranking and positioning. And we're not going to be able to game the system like we do now with, keywords. It's going to be about what content is driving users, what content is answering questions that people are asking, and how can Google get that information to the user as quickly as possible. So as the AI becomes smarter, our jobs are going to become more difficult, but it's really going to be about figuring out what people are trying to learn, what questions they're asking, and then putting out the best content to answer those questions.
Yeah. I mean, like going off of the person from Australia, I think the concept, if I were to take that one step further, I would say that you're creating content to show that you know what you're talking about with the business and the service that you're offering. So if you're able to do that, then you're going to get the trust of the audience that you're trying to target. They're going to say, well, this person seems to understand what they're talking about. But more importantly, what you're talking about also has to solve a problem that your target audience is looking for. So if you're able to put content out there that discusses what, who you are and the fact that you know what you're talking about, that same content should be addressing what the target audience is looking for to whatever their problems are. And so, Brian, I'm sure Google just released this algorithm, for lack of better words, called helpful content. So it is specifically looking for content that has some value to the marketplace, right? And so your how-to type, how to do this or why this, those types of the content that answers questions is going to fall into the category of helpful content. But I think that's going to help move in a direction, Brian, that you're just talking about as well.
Yeah, another thing that we focus on a lot is Google has the EAT algorithm, which is expertise,
Yeah.
authority, and trust. Like Meili was just talking about, trust is a huge part of that. And part of the way that you establish the expertise and authority is by having a breadth of content around a particular topic area. So you can't just have one blog post that focuses on one keyword phrase. You have to have several posts and pillar pages and all content that's linked together, talking about all sorts of semantically related keywords that all show that you have this breadth of content. Google puts out a document that they update all the time. That's the Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines. They have it up on their site. It's a 160-page document. It mentions the EAT algorithm 130 times. So it's obviously important. Google cares.
All right.
What's the name? The search guideline?
Search quality, search quality evaluator guidelines, or search evaluator quality guidelines. So they have people that actually go in. They pay people to actually go in and manually do some searches and judge based on the criteria that are laid out in this document how well these searches are performing. And so that's part of how they are constantly looking at changing their algorithm, updating things. So you can look through this document and see this is, the biggest concepts they have in there. Some of the most important algorithms that they mention are the EAT algorithm, and the other one is your money or your life. So any content that specifically is focused on helping users figure out how to improve either their money or their life, these big important decisions that we're making, they have a tendency to rank higher as well.
Okay, interesting. So from a strategic point, would that mean when for example, how can I use AI tools for creating better, high quality blog articles about money would be a higher rank than, I would say, for the pillow topic, I don't know,
How to grow plants.
Healthcare is also very good. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And it doesn't always mean it ranks higher. It means that they have a more strenuous criteria for judging it. They look more closely at it because they want to make sure that the information they're providing to people about their money or their lives is coming from quality sources. It's coming from sources with a lot of information in that particular area. So they want to make sure that there's that, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness in the content that's provided.
That's cool. I have to
I think
check this out.
along with the helpful content algorithm that they came up with, somebody had done an in-depth research, and I think it was on Search Engine Watch, had an article there where they identified that the helpful content also include lists. In other words, if you have an article that says 5 ways to, to get more, to increase your retirement funds, for example, and I'm just using that as a crazy example. It's about money, but it also has a list of things that people should be doing. These are the types of things that Google falls into Google's helpful content algorithm, and they tend to rank better as well.
And users love lists too. Readers love to have like 5 things. I want 5 things. I want 9 things.
Yeah, got it. That's cool. Really like that. That's full of value. And I have to check out my own content. But anyway. So I mean, I use content writing assistants. This is a little bit away from our topic, but I always have to, I get the subheadlines. I don't have to figure out anything. Do you have experience with that, these tools? So that, I can, for example, use Writer, that's GPT-3 technology, to create blog articles. And from a SEO standpoint, is this relevant for you, or is the SEO optimization another adding task to do after the content is created by an AI tool? Do you have experience in that field?
Yeah, we actually, the conference I was just at had a lot of AI tools that were sponsoring a lot of the events. Writer was there, Market Muse was there.
Cool.
And, it's important to do keyword research before you start creating content, so you know what terms to put into the AI. So it can have some of those keywords to start with. AI can do an amazing job of first draft, of helping you out, of helping fill in some of the holes. But I haven't seen any AI tools yet that can write a clean, comprehensive, well-structured piece that focuses on delivering for the user. So there's a lot of cleanup that has to happen afterwards as well. But it's definitely, moving forward, and definitely going to be tools that we're going to be integrating into our workflow and our stack.
I mean, yeah, and I would agree. If you have to think about writing as step number one, and then the activity for the user is step number two, and that's then followed by, okay, well, what do I need to do for search engine optimization of that blog post or that page? And so when you think about the SEO side of it, right? You need subheadings, so H2 tags have to go into here. You need a featured image. You need an image inside of the article or a video, something that's going to be engaging to the visitor. And you have to take a look at whether or not you're over exceeding, for example, I'm using simple examples, a keyword or phrase that might be considered spam, where that blog post might be considered spam. So this is where tools like Yoast, for example, come into play that are helpful to kind of give you guidelines as far as what the SEO looks like. But even Yoast is not able to really address the second part that I mentioned, which is, well, now that you have your draft and now that you've done the SEO, but in the middle, how is the visitor going to view this article? And how quickly can they read it? How quickly are they going to get the information they're looking for? Because they're not trying to spend the whole day reading an in-depth Atlantic article, for example, that talks about the economics and the world policies. They came here for a very specific reason. So you need to address that reason pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's important also to remember, you want them to do something. You're not just putting out content just to inform the world. You want them to take some action. Do you want them to subscribe to your newsletter? Do you want them to read more content? Is this a part of the funnel that will help push them towards buying a product or a service? So every article that our content creators come to us and say, here's this article, we say, this is great. It's an amazing article, some fantastic research that's gone into it. Who's the audience? And they say, everyone. Like, now everyone's got an audience. It's like, pick one audience. Who is going to have the greatest impact against our strategic goals by taking action on this article? Oh, well, maybe it's a little bit more technical research that we're talking about. Maybe this is more focused on graduate students or potential incoming faculty. Let's target that one audience and try to get them to take some action. Here's a link to go visit our graduate studies page. Here's a link to sign up for our newsletter, and then track that to make sure that they're converting on that action. If they're not, maybe it's the wrong audience. Maybe it's the wrong call to action. But if you're not tracking and measuring, you'll never know.
I agree.
Yeah.
No question.
Love it. Cool. So this brings us, maybe we talked a lot about SEO optimization. Maybe we can what you said, Brian, leads into this direction of lead conversion. But I like this idea of thinking about on a strategic way. What should happen after somebody read my article or my captions that I created? What is the call to action, basically? Can I say this that way? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And so there's a lot of talking about lead generation, and this is maybe a term that I hear too often times by clients. So when you define leads, do you have a definition for yourself? Because everybody, in my opinion, everybody is talking about something different. So for one guy, this is a newsletter subscription. For somebody else, it is to buy my product. That's a lead. To another guy, it's, I don't know, to like my comment, to like my post or something. Do you guys have a definition of leads?
I mean, I would say that first we have to identify if this is a B2B website or a B2C website. If it's B2C, there's a high probability that what we're really wanting to do is not be a lead, but actually a sale. So come to my website, find the product, make a purchase, and that's your goal. If you're in the B2B world, you're going to say, I need this website visitor I want them to contact me, and either by a form, by phone, an email, something that's on the website that's going to get them to say, hey, I'm interested in what you have to offer. And so that becomes a lead, right? So the lead being, it's before the sale, and it's about that person, that website visitor, contacting you with whatever call to action you have and saying, I want to learn more. So that's where the lead comes into place. With reference to what you just said, yes, how we get the call to action is where it makes it different. So the call to action could be setting an appointment. Nowadays, we have online calendars. Somebody could be on your website, they click on the calendar, they go and they book an appointment. That becomes a lead. That's it, probably the best lead there yet. And then they can't fill out a form. I'm interested. Like in our case, we have a AI tool for our conversion rate optimization. And the AI tool creates a journey funnel of somebody coming to your website multiple times. Based on where they are in the funnel, it actually actively pushes a call to action to them. So if they're at the top of the funnel, they get a different call to action. If they're at the bottom of the funnel, it's a different call to action. And the call to action is based on, all the different pieces to the puzzle. How frequently do they come to the website? How deep do they go? How long do they spend on the pages, et cetera, et cetera. But in this particular scenario, you're not waiting for the website visitor to take action. You're actually helping them get to an action that's going to be your goal, your objective. And so from my standpoint, the lead is about that person contacting you versus a sale is the last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And we set up conversions and leads to track. And a conversion is any user of your site who is taking an action that is going to help get you towards your goal. And then a lead is just that same person taking an action that allows you a way to contact them, whether that's, through a form where you collect their email, newsletter subscription. In Web3, it's collecting their wallet ID. There's all sorts of different ways that you're going to take those conversions and eventually capture that lead. Anytime you purchase something online, they always ask you, hey, create an account while you're purchasing. So that's where they capture that lead. They want the conversion, but they also want the lead because you want that return customer. You want that contact point. It's the most important thing.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. Melich, you mentioned...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it goes back to where we started from, where Brian was mentioning. It's about data, right? So when you're talking about being able to get a lead or a sale from the website, you're also tracking data. The data that you're tracking is how do people flow through your website? What pages are they going to? How deep within the website are they going? Are they getting from point A to point B quickly, right? So are they able to do it in 3 steps, or does it take 5 steps for them to get there? This is where reviewing your analytics, reviewing your A/B testing tools, reviewing your an AI tool that you might have on your website that's tracking visitor activity, and then being able to make a decision on how do we get that person in the shortest distance to what they're looking for. And I think the data point is still a meaningful piece here. You can't do it without reviewing all this information.
Yeah.
And new content won't do the trick.
Okay, sorry. Sorry for interrupting that much today. You mentioned an AI tool, Melich. What is the name of it? I'm just curious.
Oh, we have it's something that we developed in-house with our tech team.
Okay, cool.
And it's basically it's there to it has a baseline that our team was able to find, but essentially from the point that somebody gets to the website, it is not cookie based. From the point that they get to the website, and let's say they come back a day later, a week later, or a few weeks later, we can still track that person and identify how long did they take to come back to the website. When they're in the website on any visit, how deep did they go, and how much time do they spend on each page? So what it's basically doing is identifying the interest level of that person for your products and services. As it's gathered